Very smart guy told me, if you have the chance, you have the resources and the manpower, people standing around, you make them useful, right? Future resuscitation that are having their hands in their pockets or their hands out, not doing anything, standing around, make them useful. Get that triple lumen in if you have to, depending on what it is, hemorrhage, maybe a cordis, and buddy it with an A-line. And I'm going to tell you straight up. I call it a dirty line, dirty double, because people upstairs will say, these disgusting people got this patient alive, but these lines are dirty. Let that be an issue to worry about later. We can give antibiotics, whatever. But if done with ultrasound, ain't that dirty. No matter what you think about ER doctors. All right? So the issue about this is this. Very small person, Hani Malamat, critical care doc, on TikTok a lot and on Instagram. He said, and it made sense, if you invent A-line, you know there's a return of spontaneous circulation because there be an arterial pulse and blood flow when there's ROSC. So spending 10 seconds, which is already too much, right? Because remember, you're building up all this pressure doing the CPR of the chest, building it up to hopefully with that A-line it will pick up a diastolic blood pressure of 30, right? 30, just enough blood flow to perfuse the coronary arteries, right? Just enough, right? Not the map, the diastolic. Just enough to flow for coronary arteries for your heart to work. If the heart can work, perhaps your body will work. The rest of it when it comes back, right? When you get ROSC, right? So guess what? When you do pulse checks, the reason you really do a pulse check is quickly, if you don't have the technology there, because a lot of these cardiac monitors, defibrillators, have the technology to discern the rhythm that's actually happening despite your active artifact, motion artifact of CPR. You know how amazing that is? What you're really doing, but if you don't, what you're really doing that minimum, the most minimum, not the maximum, the maximum you should be holding for 10 seconds, because if you don't have the A-line in, is an ultrasound of the carotid or femorals. Not while doing a line, but while you're trying to assess for a pulse. What's more accurate? Me feeling for a pulse and I'm being nervous, or me being heavy set and jiggly and trying to look for a pulse? If I had the ultrasound vascular probe on my carotid and I see spontaneous pulsations, guess what? Now if you see spontaneous pulsations during the CPR, I'm wondering, is that the CPR being good? Or maybe he doesn't need to be getting CPR. Maybe his blood pressure just happens to be too low to be appreciated, and he has ROSC. Now, the bad thing on most ultrasound probes, they don't allow you to use two probes at the same time. The technology doesn't let you to look at the heart and simultaneously see if the rhythm and the beat of the heart is correlating and beating at the same time as the arterial pulsations, the artery that you're measuring and looking on Doppler or without Doppler of the carotid or the femorals. Imagine that. Not the little arteries of the radius. If you do the radius, great. I'm just telling you, if you could see the pulsations of the artery of the neck, that's better than pulse check. A true pulse check in the 10 seconds. I'm just telling you, we have to find ways of minimizing any type of pause. And if I get that technology to see the true rhythm that's really happening, to see if I can pace it, shock it, cardiovert it, hey, I'm going to minimize pauses. And if the pauses occur, it's because people are tired and they need to resume the CPR. A little plug for the machine, the mechanical CPR, as long as over the chest correctly, it won't damage. Right? But it costs money. Not everyone wants to supply the goods, the money to buy that. But if it's on, you don't have to worry about the switch. You got to worry about the battery life. And if all you worry about the battery life and you're looking for a pulse check, minimize it less than 10 seconds, if at all. And I'm watching what's going on, I would actually put that vascular probe over the carotid, over the femoral artery, and watch if there's pulsations throughout the resuscitation. Because maybe instead of just waiting for end-tidal CO2 to rise and spike, maybe just watch the carotid and the femoral. And I remember, A former colleague of mine, Marvino. He said, "Hey, why do we feel for pulses if the vascular probe could do just as good as that?" The hard part, everyone wants to look at the heart to see if it's defibrillating or cardiac standstill, and no one wants to look for the carotid. Guess what? You can rock the vascular probe over the carotid already throughout the whole CPR part. And I'm going to tell you, if you see pulsations there, I'm going to tell you there's a clue. You need a functioning heart pumping blood into that carotid artery. Make sense? So if there's a negotiation about what they want to look at, I'm going to tell you straight up, that carotid artery is pulsating, I bet you that heart's pumping. But if it's not moving at all, more likely, the heart's not pumping at all. Just putting a plug for ultrasound and newer technologies that allow us to see the rhythm without stopping CPR. Okay? Motivated by some Bills player that got hit and went to cardiac arrest. And I don't know how long he was down when people were waiting for experts. You can't tell me he had a head injury that caused him to fall down and collapse. You could have looked at his pupils and felt his pulse. No breathing, no pulse. That's not a spinal cord injury that does that. That's not a head injury that happens that fast that does that. It's the heart. You can do CPR through pads. Hopefully things turn out okay for him.